All right, guys, we have the staff from Grove City this hour on our final day of the D3 Top 25 Clinic. I've really enjoyed all of these presentations. I think you guys are in for a treat with this one. Coach talking about vision and how they've taken a program from 0-10 to 10-0. I think there'll be a lot to learn here. I talked to Coach DiDonato. We're going to get him back to and hear more from him on the podcast as well. So, Coach, thanks again for taking the time and turn it over to you.
It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. I'm going to unshare and then reshare my screen here. All right, there we go. Why are you here? Let me ask you a question this afternoon. Why are you here? I first heard that question when a man named Pat Williams started a talk. I got to hear Pat Williams my senior year of high school. I got to hear him again when I was in college, and I've heard him speak multiple times online. And I'm listening to this man who founded the Orlando Magic in the mid 1980s. He's read over 600 books on leadership. He sat with some of the most significant leaders you can think of over the last 50 years. I mean, the man has dedicated pretty much his whole life to leadership. And he starts a talk with the question, why are you here? And then he challenges everyone, pretty much saying the best of the best leaders are able to answer that question. And the first thing he talked about after asking that question, he said, if you sat with the best of the best, the leaders in athletics, in entertainment, in business, he said they don't agree on everything when it comes to leadership. But the one thing they are unanimous on is the importance of having a very clear vision. And when I heard that talk, I left there saying, I need a vision for my life. I need to be able to answer the question, why am I here? First of all, for my life, but if I'm ever in a leadership role, I better be able to answer the question, why do we exist as Grove City College football? Why are we here? And we better get a very clear vision. So then, I'm coaching. I'm at my high school alma mater. We had a gentleman come and speak to our team who had done work with the Super Bowl champions, the national champions, and he said, both, and I got to study those teams and organizations, and really both were built on three factors, as this man said. And the first one, vision. I start studying the life of Walt Disney, and I'm studying his life, vision, in almost every chapter I read. Sam Walton and how he built Walmart, vision. Moses in the Bible, vision. David in the Bible, vision. So I was sold at this point between Pat Williams and Walt Disney and Sam Walton and Moses and David. If I'm ever in a significant leadership role, we are going to get a very clear vision. So here I was, August 13th, 2016, my first meeting as head football coach at Grove City College. And I walk into a lecture hall where I went to school, my brother went to school, my wife went to school, and I'm standing in front of a football team who had not won a game in close to 3 years. At that point, Grove City, it's 2016, we hadn't won a game since 2013. What do you say? Where do you even begin? And I walked into that meeting, and the first thing I said, I walked in, opened up the doors, team hadn't won a game in 3 years, young first-time head coach. I walk in and I say, to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. And then I repeated it, to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. And then I repeated that statement for close to 5 minutes. The circumstance wasn't great, right? 0-10, 0-10, coming off some winless seasons. We needed to get our eyes off the circumstance and onto the vision. Hence, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. And that's what we needed to do when we were sitting there at the bottom. And we presented this vision statement and then ran every decision through it. So what I would like to do today in my time and in this clinic is to really tell you our story through vision. Pat Williams opened my eyes to the fact that there's three things a vision does. And I want to encourage you and share, if you have a very clear vision, there's three things having a vision will do for you. And then I want to walk you through how we apply vision at a program level, at the offensive level. So we have a vision for every unit, offense, defense, and special teams, but I coordinate the offense. So I'm going to show you how we apply vision at the offensive level, and then how we apply vision at the positional level. And I work most specifically with quarterbacks, so I'll show you there. So we're going to show you 3 things a vision does, and then how to apply vision at a program level, at a unit or offensive level, and then at a positional or quarterback level. And I hope there's something here for everyone. I mean, we were a program that was at the bottom. So if you're at a program, trying to climb towards the top, hopefully you can get something out of vision of how we applied it there. In 2018, we accomplished something that we had never done as a program before. So the question is, how do you sustain something? If someone's in a spot where you accomplish something you hadn't done before, how do you sustain that? Well, we ended up doing what we had never done in 125 years and did it 4 straight years. So hopefully, if you're in that situation, there's something to encourage you. And then we were a program that was really good for 4 years, but look at how do we jump and become great and go undefeated? And we were able to make that jump. So hopefully there's something in this clinic for everybody and how to beat wherever you're at to get to that next point. So let's talk about 3 things a vision does, and then how we apply it at a program, unit, and positional level. And before I even get into that, one last thing I'd like to do is just share with you how we define vision at Grove City College and how I define vision. So here is my definition of vision: a clear picture of who I am and the target of who I aim to be. I'll repeat that. What is vision? Vision is a clear picture of who I am and the target of who I aim to be. I think a lot of people, when they think of vision, they just think of that second part. That vision is the target of who I aim to be. That if I say, hey, we exist to compete for PAC championships, then they just view it as, okay, that's the target. We were in 2016 and 14-15, we were in 11th place, 0-10. So the target, compete for PAC championships. And yes, that's true. That is a big part of our vision. It is a target of who we aim to be, or who we aim to be. But more importantly, when we talk vision, the center brick of our brick by brick model, as I'm circling it here, vision is who we are. It's not just who we aim to be, it's who we are. Because in 2016, when I'm making decisions for a program or we hadn't won a game in a couple of years, compete for PAC championships, it drives every decision I make in 2016. I'm going to talk to you about staffing and strength and conditioning, recruiting, offense, defense, special teams. Yes, compete for PAC championship is the target of who I aim to be, but it's also who I am as the head football coach in 2016 and 2017. That vision should drive every decision I make. There's no decision I make apart from it. It's who I am. A big help to me in understanding this idea that vision is the target of who you aim to be and who you are is my faith. I think about my faith, it's, my desire, my target someday is to be with Christ someday. As part of my vision, to be with him. The Apostle Paul said, I desire to part and be with Christ. That's far better. That's the target of who I aim to be. But you know what? My Bible also tells me that it's no longer I who live, it's Christ who lives in me. It's who I am. Who I am today is a big part of that. I mean, the main part of it is to let Christ be my Savior, Lord, treasure, and shape who I am today. So being with him is the target of where I aim to be with him someday in heaven. He's also who I am. He's the one who lives through me, who died for me, who lived the perfect life that I get credit for through faith. The target of who I aim to be and who I am today. So as we look at that, that's how we define vision in this program and how it's really helped us make decisions as we aim for the target. I'm going to give you a lot of 4-second phrases throughout this presentation, or at least a few. Here's the first one. It's hard to hit a target that small. It's impossible to hit a target you don't have. It's hard to hit a target that small. It's impossible to hit a target you don't have. When we're sitting here and we're in last place, it's hard. When you're in 11th place and 3 straight 0-10 seasons, it's hard to hit a target that small saying we want to be number one, compete for PAC championships. But you know what? Someone once told me it's impossible to hit a target you don't have. So vision. With compete for PAC championships, we now had a target of where we aim to be and a target of who we are and how it guides our day-to-day decisions. So let's jump into it. So when we look at vision, first thing first, it starts with program vision. So when we look at program vision, I'm going to take this in three phases: phase one program, phase two offense, phase three position. And phase one, our program, the reason we started there is because we hadn't won a game in a couple years. I had no idea what offense we needed to run, no idea what defense we should have been running. All we knew at that point is another thing with vision: know your story. All we knew at that point is, you know what? We play in the President's Athletic Conference. We've been in this conference since 1984. It's been around since 55. We've competed at times in the PAC. And we can look at this and say, you know what? I can look at PAC in this conference and get enough information to make accurate decisions on a day-to-day basis and compare myself to the other 10 teams. So looking at our story, this was our vision, and that's a big part of a vision: know your story. So there's three things a vision does. The first thing a vision will do is a vision keeps you focused. The first thing a vision does is a vision keeps you focused. The best example I have of this is the story of David and Goliath. It's the first story I share every year with our team. You take the story of David and Goliath, and I love Gene Hackman, Hoosiers, great, one of my favorite sports movies of all time, right? You think you're going to lose to a great team, you come in, you tell the underdog story of David and Goliath. Well, that's great, but David and Goliath is so much more than that. When you look at the story of David and Goliath, I mean, here's two nations, rival nations, come into battle. And instead of 1,000 soldiers fighting, they say, look, let's each send out one soldier. The Philistines, you send your best. Israelites, we'll send ours. And you know the story. The Philistines send out this giant named Goliath. And for 40 days, no one in the Israelite army will fight Goliath. Every word out of their mouth, how big he is, how strong he is, how intimidating he is. Till a young shepherd boy named David steps on the scene. And I see that David makes 11 statements, 2 about Goliath. And they were just things like this: who is this Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? Just 2 statements about Goliath. And he makes 9 statements about God. Focused on God 4 times as much as Goliath. His vision was to glorify God. Focused on his vision 4 times as much as his circumstance. Hence, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. Why did we need that story and phrase so much? This was our Goliath at the time. This was our circumstance from a football standpoint. It felt like that. I mean, when you go 0-10 and 14, 0-10 and 15, and then in 2016, my first year, we get this vision and we go 0-10. Circumstance wasn't great, 0-30. And I told the guys, I said, guys, I know the circumstance. We haven't won a game now in close to 4 years. But the visions compete for PAC championships. Focus on your vision, not your circumstance. Told the staff, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. And here's the power of vision and how it kept us focused. First and foremost, I think about staffing. We get here, and I've always been told in leadership, you got to lead upward, right? You want to lead. You got to have a good relationship with your athletic director, and don't just go with complaints. You got to be able to go up and communicate upward. Well, first thing, we're 0-30, and let's say, maybe it's an entry level coach, graduate assistant. Maybe we need another coach. Every time I talk to anyone, I put a statement in front: compete for PAC championships. I'm not looking at what the Ohio schools have staffing. I can learn from them. I'm not looking at what some of the schools on the other side of the state of Pennsylvania, as we're in Western PA. I'm looking at the other 10 teams in the PAC. What do those teams have at the top? How many coaches do they have? And that's how I'm able to go above me and present, hey, my vision's compete for PAC championships. I've made that known. Here's what the top teams in the PAC have staffing. Hey, maybe we can get another young coach in here, right? Compete for PAC championships. That's how we determined what our staff needed to look like. Strength and conditioning. Instead of just giving my opinion on strength and conditioning, go out everybody's website, everyone looking, what do they have as far as a strength coach? Who's training their athletes? At the time, we didn't have a strength coach. So if I'm going to say, hey, we need a CSCS, certified strength and conditioning specialist, I mean, obviously that's the main accreditation. There's others as well. But, not just that, but we need a strength coach to be with our guys. Well, what do the other teams in the PAC have? If I'm going to go and say, hey, we need a full-time strength coach, or we need to address something with staffing with strength and conditioning, compete for PAC championships. What are the other teams in the PAC have listed, and how can we compete in that area as far as what we have resource-wise? But here was the big one, how a vision kept us focused here when we were sitting here at the bottom, was in recruiting. This was where I had so many people come to me with so many different things, and so many good ideas. I mean, we're a great academic school, a faith-based institution. Certainly, we get students from all over the country. And I had people come to me, hey, coach, where are you going to go in recruiting? Where are you going to send your staff? And you need to recruit national. Western PA, it's saturated. There's so many schools coming into Western PA. Where are you going to go? And I took all that information and then I held it up to this statement: vision keeps you focused. I said, look, I can learn from, all these different ideas and certainly be a lifelong learner. But at the end of the day, I need to look at what the other teams in the PAC are doing. And I gathered, what kind of freshmen are coming in, where are they getting guys, how many? And, one of the things that jumped out to me, now I can learn from other people. I'm not going to try to be Alabama or the Pitt Panthers or the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, I can learn from all of them when it comes to obviously the college teams, recruiting or offense, defense from those teams. Got to be a learner. But at the end of the day, what would drive any of these decisions, in this case, recruiting, is let me look at what the teams in the PAC are doing. And one of the things I found, right in the middle of this 0-10 season, and these 3 0-10s after the second 0-10 or heading into that second 0-10, we looked at it and from our home state, now I heard a Division I coach talk about recruit your home state first at a clinic. And absolutely, I take that information, learn from it. And I looked in the top teams in the PAC, 5 other teams that we felt we should recruit against. That 2015 class, they had 3 times as many guys from Pennsylvania than we did. 3 times on average than we had in that class. I said, look, there's a lot of ways we can go about this, but I told everyone, I said, we're going to start, we got to win PA first. I said, if we're going to compete for PAC championships, my data from the PAC says we have to win PA first. Then, of course, we can branch out. We're going to need to. But if we don't win PAC first, we don't win PA first, so we're not going to go anywhere in recruiting. And that's where we put all our efforts. Within a few years, we have as much as anybody else as far as in a recruiting class from the state of Pennsylvania. That's what I mean by a vision keeps you focused. Compete for PAC championships drove how we approach staffing, how we approach strength and conditioning, how we approach recruiting. And here's a main story that really resonated with our guys at this time. Last thing I'll say about how a vision keeps you focused. We looked at a guy named James Stockdale. So James Stockdale he was a prisoner of war for over 7 years in Vietnam. And most of those who went as prisoner of wars didn't make it out. Prisoner of wars, and they didn't make it out, but James Stockdale did. So he was asked, James, how'd you do it? I mean, some of the worst conditions you can imagine. How did you make it out when so many others didn't? He said, I had to live in paradox. He said, I had to confront the brutal facts of my present reality. The conditions were harsh. We didn't know when we were going to get out. This is our brutal facts. We needed to confront the brutal facts of our present reality while retaining faith that we would prevail in the end. He said, I had to live in that paradox, confront the brutal facts of my present reality while retaining faith that I would prevail in the end and get out someday and get home. And they said, James, who didn't make it out? He said, well, those who just focused on the brutal facts, meaning they just saw how harsh the conditions were, how hard it was, that they didn't think they would get out. Well, they didn't. He said, also, those who, on the other side of it, he defined as the optimist. Those who said, we're going to get out by Christmas, Christmas would come and go. We're going to get out by Easter, Easter would come and go. We're going to get out by Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving would come and go, and then it's Christmas again. He said, they died of heartache. He said, I had to confront the brutal facts of my present reality while retaining faith that we would prevail in the end. Our brutal facts were 0-30. We could not ignore those. We had to address why, from a staffing or recruiting or whatever it would be situation, why were we here? But always retain faith that, hey, if we're making decisions looking at the top teams in the PAC, we can retain faith with every decision. We're getting one step closer. A vision keeps you focused. And it did. Because in 2017, after 3 0-10 seasons, we go 4-6. And then in 2018, 2 years removed from 0-30, 1 year removed, because on September 23rd, 2017, we ended a 33-game losing streak. 1 year removed from ending a 33-game losing streak, we go 8-3 and win the school's first postseason game in school history. First ever postseason win in 125 years of football. The vision kept us focused at 0-10 to 4-6 to 8-3. Now what? All right, coach, you're 8-3. What do you do now to take the next step? The second thing a vision does is a vision keeps you fueled. So a vision keeps you focused. The second thing a vision does that Pat Williams says, and what it did for us, a vision keeps you fueled. What fueled us in the strength decisions? What fueled us in the staffing decisions? What fueled us in the recruiting decisions? Looking at the other teams in the PAC and figuring out how do we compete with them. Well, now we're 8-3 and bowl champions. The vision keeps you fueled. Just a picture of this. I love this story. Our guys love it as well. There's 3 builders that they're working. Guy comes onto a construction site. Now they're all doing the same thing. They're all laying brick. They're all hot and sweaty. And a gentleman goes up to the first guy, 80-degree weather, hot, laying brick. And this guy's miserable. And he goes up to him and says, "Sir, what are you doing?" He says, "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm laying brick." Miserable. Goes up to the second guy, just as hot, just as sweaty, and just as miserable. "Sir, what are you doing?" "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm building a wall." Goes up to the third guy, just as hot, just as sweaty, 80 degrees, doing the same work, but he's got a big smile on his face. He says, "Sir, what are you doing?" The guy responds, "I'm building a cathedral." What's the difference? See, the first 2 focused on the circumstance, laying brick, building a wall. One focused on the vision, I'm building a cathedral. Another phrase for you, live in the why, not the what. Live in the why, not the what. What they were doing, the first 2 were laying brick, building a wall, and that's all they focused on. But the third guy understood why he was doing it, to build a cathedral. Live in the why, not the what. This is how a vision kept us fueled. And at this point, this is where it kept us fueled, because after we went 8-3, we now had enough information to develop an offensive vision, a defensive vision, and a special teams vision. But in all 3 of the areas, we had to determine what can we be best in the PAC at. And I'll cover the details of that in a few minutes. But that vision keeping us fueled and compete for PAC championships and recruiting, strength and conditioning, staffing, bringing that to offense, defense, special teams, helped us sustain the success and keep us fueled to not just our first bowl championship in school history, but now 4 straight 8 or more win seasons, 4 straight bowl championships. A vision kept us focused, then a vision kept us fueled to continue to apply how we can compete with the top teams PAC now from an offensive statistics standpoint, defense, etc. The third thing a vision does, a vision helps you finish. There was so much celebration, coming from where we were to 4 straight bowl championships. But as I told the team, that's not the vision. The vision's not win bowl championships. We'll celebrate that. But the vision's compete for PAC championships. We now have been pretty good. 4 straight 8 or more win seasons, 4 straight bowl championships. But that's not the vision. Last February at this time, so just last year at this time, there's a lot of decisions to make. I'm in my office right now. A lot of people came in my office saying, "What do we do?" Here's idea. How do you go from, consistently 8 wins to finally, hitting that PAC championship? And so many great ideas, so many things. I wrote them all down. Absolutely, you can learn from them. But I went to the staff a year ago as we were sitting here having success, but not the vision. I got in front of the staff, our first meeting, I put this vision statement in front, and I said, "Guys, this is all we need to look at. All February and March, what are we missing? Look at this right here, compete for PAC championships. What are we missing?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. We went January, February, learned from so many different people. Absolutely lifelong learner. I love learning all these new things. And then when we started staff meetings to prepare for spring ball, I said, the only thing I want everyone focusing on is this right here, compete for PAC championships. We said, let's look at, now they're coming into last season, and for the previous few, there was us 5 teams, us and 4 others that were consistently at the top of the conference. I said, okay, we need to finish this. Let's look at these top 4 teams in the PAC, everybody, look at every clip, look at every statistic, everything you can, and let's see what we find. How do we go from 8-3 to finally winning the PAC? And we spent all of February and March looking at the vision. How do we compete for a PAC championship? And we found 2 amazing things we needed. Number one, there was 3 teams that for the previous few years we were 7-7. 3 of those top teams that we were 7-7 against. And we noticed every game we lost, there were certain statistics that we lost in. And every game we won, we were either tied or won those categories. Wow. Let's spend all spring addressing those issues. We found the key factors that we could just fully invest in getting better at. And then we found we needed to take vision to one more level. We have a vision for our program. We now had a vision for our offense, defense, special teams. We need a position vision. And we got a vision for every position. Live in the why, not the what. When quarterbacks walk on the field and I say, why are you here? Win one-on-ones, coach. Identifying those key factors, getting position vision. We finally crossed that bridge, 10-0 in the league, conference champs. From 0-10, 0-10, 0-10, 4-6, 8-3, sustained that for 4 years. Vision kept us focused to go from 0-10 to 8-3, kept us fueled to stay at 8-3 and not go backwards, and helped us finish to finally get that PAC championship. That's the power of a program vision, to keep you focused, fueled, and help you finish. So that's how it applied at a program level. Now, here's how vision applies at a unit level. So when I talk about the vision kept us fueled and we found an offensive vision, here's how we did that. We actually used a business model to find out our offensive vision. So I have the reference right there at the bottom, as you see on my screen, a guy named Jim Collins. He wrote a book called Good to Great. And what he studied in this book was, there's all these companies that were essentially good or average or good. They were all similar, yet some made a leap to greatness while others kind of stayed the same or went backwards. And him and his team just completely studied. Hence, you can see at the bottom, good to great, why some companies make the leap and others don't. He said, let's study, why did some of these companies make the leap to greatness and some didn't? And there's so many great things in this book. The one that stuck out to me the most was this hedgehog model. He said those companies that went from good to great were able to answer 3 questions honestly. What can we be the best in the world at? What drives our economic engine? And what are we deeply passionate about? He said those companies were able to answer those questions honestly. So for our offense, defense, special teams, we said we're going to use this model to find out what our offensive vision needs to be, for example. Now, when we look at it, we're not asking what can we be the best in the world at, not the best of 240 plus teams in Division III. Our program vision drives everything. What can we be the best in the PAC at? Now, here's the key thing he says in this book. The hedgehog model, or to find your vision, it's not a goal to be the best, a strategy to be the best, an intention to be the best. Here's the key word. It's an understanding of what you can be the best at. We use this word, identify what you're best at. What we needed to do on offense is identify what can we be the best at. Just to give you a picture, when we started this journey, this is where we were, 11 teams in the league. This is our first 0-10 year here at Grove City, 11th in every category. I'll come back to that, but 11th in total offense, scoring offense, total defense, scoring defense. So we needed to identify Okay, not just what we want to do, what I like. Let's get an understanding. What can we be the best at? Now, to understand that, we need to look at our economic engine. Now, what this means is what's working? Look hard at what's working. But when you're 0-10, it's hard to have much to look at. That's why all we had was a program vision at first. But once we started getting better in recruiting, strength and conditioning, winning games 4-6, then obviously 8-3, we had enough information to start saying, hey, when we win games, this is what we do on offense to win games. Hey, those drives that led to touchdowns, this is what we were doing on those drives that led to touchdowns. So, question number one, as an offense, not what we want to or not what we wish to be the best at. Let's getting an understanding and identify what can we be the best at. Secondly, let's write down everything we can see on every successful drive or every non-successful drive. What were we doing? Why did it happen? What leads to us having success? What do we do when we score? And then the third question, what are we deeply passionate about? What are those core values? When we put up our offense, what do we say our offense is all about? What are those things we talk about on a daily basis? And this is where he really opened my eyes. When you can answer that question, all three of those questions, and they meet in the middle, you're going to create something special. And here's what I mean by meet in the middle. Prior to coming to Grove City, I ran drive, shallow, mesh. That was my deal. I loved it. I was clinicking on it everywhere. I was at my high school alma mater, Pennsylvania's all-time leading passer, throwing it 40 times a day. I was very passionate about drive, shallow, mesh. My first year, we ran it. We didn't win a game. We gave up the most sacks in the conference and way too many sacks. So I was passionate about drive, shallow, and mesh, but it did not go well. We were behind the chains, taking sacks, turning the ball over. And there was two teams in our league that were already doing that style of offense way better than we were going to. So I would have been living here, just where I'm passionate, but it's not giving me economic success and it's not what I'm best at. Power read. I love power read. I was very passionate about power read. And the difference between power read and drive shallow mesh, we were having some success with it, absolutely. So we were kind of here with power read. And we would have an explosive play, but we have to accept that if we run power read, we're probably going to have some negative runs too, which hurt us in drives. But it was clear we weren't going to be the best. There was a team running a style that they were going to do it way better than we. So we would have been left living right here. But as I had this model, we have that 8-3 season in 2018. All of a sudden, we have a freshman quarterback that we have to start. We move him over from defense to offense. Didn't even play offense in camp. He's starting with us in 2018. And you know what? A patient style offense at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to just give you a quick summary here. Where we're going to make every decision at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to help at that, check the numbers. We are going to run the football unless his first start. Our first drive with him. We ran it 14 straight times, 8-minute drive. That was our first major win against the top team. Well, hey, we can get really good at slow pace, be patient at the line of scrimmage, take our time, gather as much information as possible, run the football, run the football. And here's the thing about run the football. We were best when we weren't pulling offensive linemen. We were best with duo and then, inside zone, lead zone. Wow. So we know what runs are leading to us moving the ball down the field. We know we're best at being patient at the line, not trying to go super fast, gather information, be patient, run the ball. And then when a team tries to take away your run, birds win one-on-one matchups. And in a quick summary, we found, hey, we can be the best at run plays where we're not pulling an offensive lineman, and we tend to score a lot when we do that. That 14 play drive, that game, we had no negative plays, no sacks, no negative runs. Wow, we can be the best at, when we don't pull an offensive lineman, our bad runs are 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7. Okay, we started to see we know who we need to be. And where those three circles intersect, is this statement right here. This is our offensive vision. This is what we found through the hedgehog concept. And it took us from, I'll show you, the worst offense in the league to number one. But here's the last thing Jim Collins says. He says many more, actually, but okay, it's an understanding of what you can be the best at. But here's the second, and this was the hard part. It's going to require discipline. He said the great companies, they have the discipline that I'm only going to do what I'm best at. Hence, guys, identify what we're best at, only do what we're best at. Identify what we're best at, only do what we're best at. That was the hardest part. And what I'm sharing here, it's not for everybody. I mean, the idea could be it's descriptive, not prescriptive. If teams didn't pull offensive linemen, for some teams, that would be a horrible decision. Some teams, you better run more drive shallow mesh. Absolutely. It's absolutely not about what scheme here. But the whole idea is, hey, identify those things you're best at. And then are you willing to get rid of some things that don't help what you're best at, and they're not what you're best at? If you're not the best at it, maybe there's things you shouldn't be doing anymore. It required me, if I'm going to be best at duo, if I'm going to be best at verts, it means I don't rep drive anymore. So where I used to run under dig drill every day for drive shallow mesh, now I'm running my vert package because we have 8 to 10 different things we can do when I call verts, that outside receiver, 8 to 10 different route choices he has. So I got to invest all my time in that. And I got to work everything a team could do to duo. So it took us identifying what we're best at. To be honest, we took power read out of the playbook through this hedgehog model. The data showed we needed to take drive shallow mesh out of the playbook. So this is our vision, and I kind of already summarized it. Sustained drives, we tell our guys, if this works, if this hedgehog model works and vision works, we should have a top 3 total offense and scoring offense every single year. We're going to manage numbers. That's very simple. When the defense wants us to run, run. When the defense wants us to pass, pass. Slow pace. Hey, I know this sounds radical for us, but if we're going to be patient at the line on first down and second down, let's do the same thing on third. If we have a system in which we operate on first and second, let's do the same thing on third. And our guys love this, but this was a hard choice at the time. I said, we're not scripting third down anymore. Now, this is just for us. For some teams, this would not be the best way to go. But I said, we don't practice special third down periods, but I would argue we practice third down every play of practice, because what we use in our system on third down is the same thing we do on first and second, both pre-snap and post-snap, to make decisions on the numbers. That's what we mean by slow pace. We're no huddle, not that we want to snap it with 2 seconds. What it means is we want to be patient to always put ourselves in the best position to just keep moving the ball forward, no negative plays. Running the football, I already shared, it took us to commit to our essentially our concepts where we're not pulling offensive linemen and capitalizing on one-on-one matchups. It took us to commit to verts as our main concept and just concepts that can branch off of verts. And here's what an offensive vision did for us. Here's where we started. Our very first year, 2019, was the first year of having a full camp and full season with our offensive vision. That's where we were. This is where we jumped to. And I just show you as an encouragement. It's simply getting a vision where we identify what we're best at, being disciplined to spend the majority of time at practice or all the time at practice at the things we are best at. And that meant get rid of some things that we're not so good at. That's what vision did for us. And like I say, I tell our guys, we better be able to prove it. If we're not going to have special third down periods in the Grove City College offensive vision, then we should be a top 3 third down offense. And here's where we're at. We're top 3 in almost every single category every year. Just to give you an idea of just when we finish number 1, but here's first of all, total offense, number 1 in total offense, number 1 in total offense, number 1 in scoring offense, another year, number 1 in, I think that's scoring offense. And like I said, top 3 every year, I just put number 1. So first of all, sustained drives, guys, it's happening. We can believe in the vision. Second, third down, first and third down in 19, first this year, first in 2022. We're typically always top 2 in red zone. In 2022, we were number 1. If not, we've typically been number 2. Yes, our system at the line of slow pace that we identified. So I know it's bold, we don't have special third down periods, but I argue we do the same system on third down as first and second. And if anyone wants to reach out, I'd be happy to unpack that system in another presentation or in a conversation anytime. Running the football, committing to our non-polling plays. Us and the triple option team have been essentially the number 1 and 2 rushing at yards per game. I only put the number 1 statistics here. So, rushing TDs here in 21, 22, 23, 2022, number 1. But like I said, it's both of us typically the top 2 teams in rushing yards per game. So yes, committing to that has been amazing, guys. And then pass is all about efficiency. Number 1 in efficiency, most importantly, fewest sacks given up, in our first year doing it. And then this year, 12 games, 4 sacks given up. And that's throwing well over 2,000 yards, 11 teams, a second team all conference receiver, first team all conference receiver. So we're throwing the ball for a lot of yards, but not taking sacks. That's the power of vision. Our defense, same thing. They found a vision. They jumped to number 1 the first year of having this specific vision statement with limit offensive production. Our defense jumps to number 1. Special teams similar. That's the power of vision. Program vision, unit vision, which then this year led to positional vision. And as I wrap up here, get to the close, here's what position vision's all about. Living the why, not the what. When guys come on the practice field, they had class, they had lab, they ate lunch. When they step on the practice field, I simply ask this: why are you here? Every position on our team has a vision that it's basically within 3 to 5 words. So 3 to 5 words, depending on which position. And essentially takes the offensive vision. So that whole vision statement, and for quarterbacks, their position vision, win one-on-ones. First quarterback walks on the field, why are you here today? Win one-on-ones, coach. Next quarterback, why are you here today? Win one-on-ones, coach. And our motto is brick by brick. I just say lay 1 brick a day. When you step off the field, all I want to know is tell me one thing you did today to grow and win one-on-one matchups. So practice ends, quarterback walks off the field. Hey, tell me one thing about win one-on-ones today. Coach worked even, leaving, drop, and stop, and on verts. If I'm even within 10 yards, I'm vertical. If I'm not, I'm going to go 12 back to 10. Awesome. Great work today. We get film, NCAA playoff game. Hey, why were you in film tonight? Win one-on-ones, coach. Tell me one thing you learned. Hey, this opponent, they're going to play 3 over 2 in this coverage, and that this is the defender I'm reading to find my one-on-one. Awesome, buddy. Great film session. That's the power of vision. And here's just an example. Every position in our program, we tell them the 5 skills they need to master. Not just the skills, though. You have to be able to tell me, how does it connect to your vision? So if you're a quarterback and you're working footwork, okay, so all right, what footwork are you using on this route? Hitch footwork, coach. Okay, why? It sets the timing for my one-on-one. If I'm going to win my one-on-one, I got to throw it by hitch. All right, now you're throwing a dig. Got to throw it by balance step. It'll set me up so that I can win the one-on-one before that backer gets there. Awesome, man. Positioning, right? How I position my body for accuracy and arm strength. What's that do? Places my body in position to win a one-on-one. You're making checks at the line. Why are you doing that? Positioning our offense so I get our receivers in the best situation to win a one-on-one. See, everything you do from a process standpoint or a footwork or accuracy standpoint, tell me how it fits into the bigger picture of winning one-on-ones. Okay, so you're throwing that hinge or comeback to the sideline, and you're using a certain footwork, and you're positioning your body a certain way. All right, who are you reading initially? Well, I'm reading the safety. What does he do? He helps me identify who my one-on-one is on this concept, whether I'm going to this receiver or that receiver. So this safety is going to help me identify my one-on-one. Okay, say you're reading the corner. It's a route concept where you got to read what the corner's doing, whether we're going vertical or we're cutting it off. Oh, he's the one who determines the route of my one-on-one. So I read him to determine whether he's running the Z receiver is running this route or that route. All right, say you have that Z receiver and you think it's one-on-one, but somebody else gets in the mix. Well, there's always someone to protect him. I got to find someone to check it down. That's the beauty of it. For the quarterback to be able to look, whether it's footwork, whether it's how to position my body with my shoulders or whatever it might be for accuracy, whether it's reading a safety, whether it's reading a one-on-one matchup, whether it's reading, oh, somebody got into my one-on-one matchup, I got to find, who's coming to replace him. They're able to connect it to the vision. And that's why I can sit there at the end of the practice and say, quarterbacks, why were you here today? Win one-on-ones. Tell me one drill you did today and how it connects to your vision. Well, I did this footwork drill to work this specific route so that I can win the one-on-one before the backer gets in the window. Great job. That's the power of vision. And as I close here, I know I'm running out of time. Position vision, this is what it did for us. Not only, yes, 10-0 conference champs. Obviously, we've had some top units, some top award winners, player of the years, but took us to the first trip ever to the NCAA playoffs. First trip, first ever playoff win, top 10, and lose by 1 on the road to the eventual national champs. Unbelievable program and just a special football game. Vision's changed our program. I appreciate just the opportunity to speak here. I hope you took a few things away from this, that a vision can keep you focused, a vision can keep you fueled, a vision will help you finish, and that you can apply vision at a program level if you're a head coach, a unit level if you're a coordinator, and you can apply vision at a positional level and you're a position coach. And if anyone has any questions, or if anybody would ever love to just reach out and unpack any of these things in greater detail, feel free to reach out to me, email me anytime. Love talking football and program and vision. Vision's my favorite topic to talk about. I'd be happy to talk about anything we do here at Grove City, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this clinic.